Bobby came from England in 1973 and she's been living in Auroville since then. Welcome, Bobby. This is the Conscious Fashion Hub and it's been going on since yesterday where we have these beautiful, beautiful people joined us from all over the country and they've been having various discussions and talks. And today we'd love to hear more about your journey and Auromics, which started with Bobby teaching knitting to one lady here in Auroville, and it soon has turned into a beautiful project with over 300 women involved in learning the process, reaching out to various training programs, village women, and some really, really beautiful work that she's been doing. So we'd love to hear more about it, Bobby.
So I'd like to introduce myself. So my name is Bobby. I was born in the UK about 3 years after the end of the Second World War, which you probably all don't know much about. No? No. Anyway, at that time, we had no cell phones or televisions or all these electronic goods, huh?
We saw a little bit of that.
You saw a little bit of that. I mean, I didn't see the war because I was born after, but so we didn't have all these electronic things. We went to school, and I had a very wonderful grandmother that taught me to knit and to crochet. So basically, most of the evenings and the time was spent crocheting things, knitting things, cutting things out, stitching them together for many years. I did go to school for a few years, but not so much. I dropped out at the age of 14, so I have no certificates, no formal training or anything. It's just what I've learned. So I was there in England until I was about 23, and then with my friends we decided to go to India, just like that. Because at that time many people were going to India. So we set off hitchhiking to India. On the way it rained somewhat at places, so we caught some trains of some time, we caught some buses, and we ended up in Amritsar, no? Where we got our first wonderful Indian meal in the temple, given to us for free. And then we went to Delhi, where we had some adventures also. And then we got on one train which was going to Hyderabad, and we were on the train. It was absolutely packed full, and it stopped. Our carriage stopped, and they took our carriage off the train and left us there. So then, so then we said, well, so they said, oh, you have to get off the train and wait for the next 24 hours till the next train comes. So this was the first thing in India. And then we had to get used to eating chili food, chapatis, all these sort of things, which took a long time. Anyway, then we got a train to Benares. In Benares, of course, we saw all the ghats, and we met a very big dog, and all these sort of things. Then took a train to, we heard about this place called Pondicherry, which we thought sounded okay. So we got a train to Pondicherry. So we turned up here on Mary Street, which was called Duplex. We had a little, we had a rooftop with just like a keep roof where we slept. And then one day there was a lady called Jan, I don't know if any of you know Jan, who was on her bullock cart, because when we came to Pondicherry there was about 5 cars. There were no cars, there were a few motorbikes, a lot of bicycles, and a lot of bullock carts. So she said, oh, hey, come to lunch at Fertile. I don't know if any of you have been to the Fertile lunch, which is every Sunday, but I'm sure some of you have been. So we got on a bus, which dumped us in Kotakrai, which is quite some way away, okay? And then at that time there was not a tree. We walked from Kotakrai to Fertile, where there were a few trees, and we had lunch. And from that point, I moved into Auroville, I started to live here, met husbands, boyfriends, whatever. Children, all these sort of things. And
Which year was that lunch?
that was in 73. Lunch was in 73. So anyway. So then we struggled at that time because Auroville was not very organized. There was probably maybe two or 300 Aurovillians, and we didn't have much food. We got every day a basket of, twice a week we got a delivery with like 3 onions, 2 potatoes, some true bread, white bread, which we got a quarter liter of milk per adult, half a liter for the children. So we were quite, well, we weren't starving, but we didn't have much. So we had to find a way to earn some money. Okay, so then I had a very dear friend called Ivar, a Dutchman. He's still here, but doesn't do much now. And Ivar knew a lot of ladies in the colony in Kotakorai, and he wanted to help them. So he said, what are we going to do? So I said, let's try knitting. But at that point, in 79, it had become so difficult to live in Auroville with no food. I'd moved to Germany because my husband was German. And his mother had died, so we moved there for 9 years actually. But I said to Ivar, okay, I'll come. So I came back to Madras because I also had a business in Germany. I met him in Madras, Ivar. He brought one lady from Kotakorai to the hotel, and in the evening I taught her to knit. So that was the first lady. She learned to knit. Then he went back with this lady, and she taught about 5 other ladies to knit. And we made some things that looked like floor cloths. really, really bad. But we went on, and then Heidi, some of you will know Heidi. Heidi turned up, and she came from Germany, and she knew also knitting very well. So she started to work with us. I will point out that when I taught the first lady to knit, I taught her to knit in the English way of knitting. When Heidi came, she retaught them all to knit the German way of knitting, which is, so now we have the ladies in the village have about 4 different ways of holding the threads to knit. So sometimes with some stitches it doesn't work properly. Anyway, I was in Germany, and Heidi and Ivar were here. And of course, once Heidi got in with the knitting, it got much better than what Ivar's knitting was. And we had actually a wholesale business in Germany. We started a wholesale business in Germany, and I started taking some of the jumpers from here and selling them in Germany. So I got some customers in Germany. Slowly, the sweaters got better and better. And then in 89, I decided I'd had enough in Germany, and I was coming back here to live. So I moved back here, and I took over all the business again, and still working with Heidi. Ivar had meanwhile gone back to Holland, or he sort of dropped out. But it had done that thing to give those ladies in the colony in Kotakorai some way to earn a living. And when I came back, we had maybe about 50 knitters, I think, maybe. So then I came back in 89 when started the whole business here. Then in 93, Auroville made the trusts. We all got trusts. So luckily I got a trust. And I started to promote Auromics and to increase the volume of business and learn and introduce new yarns and new knitting techniques and new designs and all that sort of thing. Okay, I've got a few here to show you. This is for our new summer collection for 2020.
Wow.
So as you can see, you can pass them around. This one is made of linen with cotton. This one is cotton. If you want to pass them around. This is, oh yeah. So after some time, we were knitting with the hand knitting, and then we'd done lots of hand knitting, and then I decided to start with machines because Uma had some machines, so I'd noticed what she was doing. But she was using these very big machines, which are actually very hard to work with. We still do work with them a bit. We took this small hand machines, and we started with the small hand machines, which were easier to work with, and then we developed some items with silk. We got some silk yarn and developed some hand knits with silk, which are very nice. Then we developed more put yarns colours together. You see, we've got 3 colours in that now. And this one I got. And then we added crochet onto the knit, because we also started to do a lot of crochet. And the final one, put little buttons and things like that, so lots of different designs. So you can have a look at all those. So we started with cotton yarn. Over the years, we developed lots of different yarn. In the beginning, we had only some round yarn that the fishermen were using, which was what we started with. But I noticed there was this tape. You may have used it sometime in your tape yarn, which is woven, which is a flat yarn, like a ribbon, which has, well, ours has 13 different threads in it. So then I went to those people who had those machines that knitted the tape yarn, and I asked them to make this tape yarn with a loose tension and a thinner count of cotton, and then produced this yarn. Okay? And also this one. So this is actually a tape yarn, which we actually developed. And for many years we used only this tape yarn. We also work with mohair. We also work with linen. We also work with wool. And then we started to combine the yarns. So we work with wool and silk. Wool and silk somewhere. With viscose, we added some viscose into the tape yarn. And then we had some very thin 2x10 yarn, which we doubled and tripled. So we made so many different sorts of yarn. And there you can see, that's when we take 3 3x10 yarns and make a milliard yarn. Okay? So then we also had to get the GOTS certificate, because our customers in Germany wanted that. Because what happened in the beginning of the 90s, I went to the garment fair in Delhi for about 3 or 4 seasons. I expect maybe you know about that. Maybe you've been there, any of you? By doing that, I found customers who have since always come back. So I built up a customer base by going to those fairs a few times. Those customers still coming to me every year for the new collection for each season. So mainly we export to Germany and to Australia and to England. Of course, we also developed all our own patterns for the sweaters. It's not like you can go and buy those sweaters that you've looked at, that you can go and buy a pattern to knit them. And you have to remember that sweater, you need to know how many numbers you're going to start with, which design you're going to do, how many numbers you need for the neck, how many numbers you need for the shoulder, how many numbers you need for the sleeve, how long it's going to be. So we developed our own way of making our patterns. So this is like one customer's folder. That's it. It's not on the computer, nothing. We still have everything by hand. We've never changed it, and it works very well. So inside you can see, on front you can see the drawing of each sweater, and inside you will see the numbers for all the different sizes. This is what Heidi does. Heidi does this. So Heidi is now 78. So I don't know how much longer she's going to do it for. So eventually someone else has to learn to do it. But if you don't on a computer, it's extremely difficult. So anyway, you can pass it around if anybody's interested to see those. And we have piles of patterns. Actually, we wouldn't need to make any new patterns. We could just go through all of the old patterns we have and knit it again. So the customers in Europe, they all want to have this GOTS certificate, which means Global Organic Textile Certification. So you have to use organic yarn, and you have to have it dyed in the proper factory. So you have to apply to these people called EcoCert or Control Union, and they come and they inspect you, that you're treating your workers properly, that you've got proper fire things, that you've got first aid and everything, and then you have to get a certificate that your yarn was organic, that you bought, that was dyed in a factory which is got certified. So if you go to this huge dyeing factories, I don't know if you've ever been there, they have one section which is the GOTS section, and it's all green. So that's all where all the, so they're not allowed to use certain dyes. They have to buy their dyes from a certain company so that they are GOTS certified. Anyway, we got that certification, but it cost a lot of money, and I think it's a bit of a business. Those people are making a business out of us, but it's okay. Then we made a book. I didn't bring the book here. We had an intern came. I've had a few interns, and it's quite difficult with interns because they think they're going to come and do the stuff on the computer and it's going to be all easy peasy. But if an intern comes to me, I expect them to knit themselves, to do it. It's not that you can give it, if I have a lady, I give knitted something for a lady to knit, I can do it myself, and that's the only way it works. If you know you can do it yourself, then you can teach that lady what to do. Then you can look at what that lady is doing. So, I had one wonderful intern who came from, she was German actually, she grew up in Auroville and she went to the Auroville Fashion School, Anna, she was wonderful. And then she was excellent knitter, she knew how to knit everything, so then after 1 month she said, well, what am I going to do next? So then I said, well, let's do this book. So the book is over on the stall, so with the help of her we took about 10 of our original patterns from the pattern books, and we wrote it all so that anybody can buy that book and knit those patterns. Of course, we didn't really test them, so there might be a few snags in them occasionally, but if you know knitting, you know that you've got to solve those problems yourself, right? Of course, we did develop our boutique in Auroville, in the visitors center. I have to say that from start to finish, we had to build every single building that we had. We had to provide everything. We had to build our boutique. We had to build our factory. We had to buy all our stuff. We never got grants or government grants or anything. The only thing that the government did help us with was, in the beginning, they had training schemes for where you could take 50 ladies, and for 6 months they would pay their wages and you could train them to knit. So we did do that a few times, and maybe out of 50 ladies, maybe 10 stayed behind to do the work. And maybe I should tell you a little bit also that we do have ladies all over, this area in the bioregion. We have in Condamore, I don't know if you know that. We have in Tindivanam, we have in Oinapet, we had in Maracana, now we don't have Maracana. And they are knitting at home. Now, we take the thread to the villages. We have one lady who goes to the villages. She will give the ladies their thread. They will knit the pieces. It won't look like this. They'll just knit. Look at this. They'll just knit this sleeve. They'll just knit this piece. And when it comes back to the factory, we'll stitch it together and do all the finishing. So we do have around, I think, 300 ladies knitting out there. Okay? And in our factory, we have about 40 people doing all the finishing, making samples.